As the great independent director Mr. Werner Herzog once said, I despise formal restaurants. I find all of that formality to be very base and vile. I would much rather eat potato chips on the sidewalk.
Hello and welcome to Potato Chips on the Sidewalk. I'm Barbecue Benjamin. Joining me today is...
This is Vicks Vapor Rub Jacob.
Vicks Bic?
Vicks Bic, yep.
Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about, I was going to say the series finale of Barry, but I guess it's just kind of like the entire show at this point. Specifically, we're talking about the final episode, but like, I think
Our overall thoughts.
It makes sense to, evaluate the whole show in the context of finally having seen the final episode after this long. Jacob, just to start it, what did you think of the series finale of Barry?
I thought it was good. I think I didn't really have many other issues with this series around it, and like I have no issue with what happens in it in a way. Like I think it's actually like, okay, that I think it's really well done in how like every character ends up at. But yeah. I also think I think the pacing issues really came out in full force this episode. Like, I have to commend Bill Hader for keeping this series to like around the 30-minute mark the entire time, but I have to admit, I think I really could have, this show and season could have done with a good 40-50 minute episode, like one or two here and there, especially in the latter end of the series. And yeah, it covers just so much ground in such a short period of time, which I used to see as a feature of the show, but in this time, and I watched it after I watched the Succession finale, so maybe that has had a real impact on it. I just felt like it did need to be longer. What about you, Ben?
I thought it was great. I watched it before the Succession finale, so I think I wasn't like, I didn't have that juxtaposition of a 90-minute finale and then straight into like a 30-minute finale. So
yeah.
That I can see like the, how jarring that would be from your end, but overall, I just kind of think Bill Hader set out to do something in this particular season of the show, and I think he nailed it. With the pacing issues that I've seen come up with people wanting more, totally, like, would I say no to like an extra hour or two of runtime this season? No, like I'm not going to say no to that at all. I'd love to watch an hour or two more of this, but for what we got, I thought he nailed it.
Look, I will say, like, my big issue is the pacing, but like I think he actually he stuck the landing, which like he definitely stuck the landing here.
Yeah, no, I 100% think he did, and I can sympathise with people, thinking that like, it's all moving very quickly, but at the end of the day, like, that's how things tend to happen. Like, everything just seems to speed up, and I can see why, that's just an excuse for like a TV show, and like they need to like, this needed to be 2 seasons, or they needed an extra few episodes. Sure, like, I'm sure Bill Hader would have done great with extra runtime, but we got 4 seasons, 8 episodes each, like half an hour episodes. I'm content with the runtime we have, and I think everything we get in it is done very efficiently. And I know, like, efficient isn't like how you want, like, you should like measure art or anything, but like within the constraints that he had, I just don't think there's a more, I don't know, I don't want to say like fitting ending, but kind of like evaluated ending. Like, we have Barry season 1 and 2, 2018 and 2019, and then we don't have another season until 2022. And in that 3 years between seasons 2 and 3, obviously, like, Bill Hader went through everything that everyone else did, and season 3 was jarring for a lot of people, I think, where Barry just comes out swinging in like the first or second episode, just being like blatantly evil, which, like, like he was throughout the entire first 2 seasons. But then season 3 hits, and then I think in those 3 years between 2 and 3, he kind of was just like, okay, I kind of want to lay it on thick about how much of a scumbag this guy is, and having him like fear the people that he's killed, in terms of like reckoning like with his afterlife and where he's going to go, and then to put him in jail, and then to have him escape, and think that he's gone down a righteous path to forgiveness, and then to have what happens to him in this episode. There's like a reevaluation of what Bill Hader wanted the series to be in those 3 years.
Yeah.
And I understand missing the vibe of season 1 and 2, but if a creator's going to look at something they created and feel differently about it than they did when they make it, and to come out with something like this, I think it's kind of astounding. I think it's a great finale to a great show, and I'm very, very happy with it.
Yeah, no, I do agree with most of your points there. Like,
Yeah.
there has been a bit of discourse about, I guess, Bill Hader's direction on this show, and whether he treated it too much in the later seasons like a directorial CV. I don't really care. I think that's just mostly speculation.
That's just getting mad at someone for putting like a little like artistic flourishes into a show. Like, what do you mean like CV? Like, the guy's been like, well, yeah, he started out on SNL in like 2005. Yeah, he's been around for 18 years. He's been acting. He like, just because like he's showing his chops in this show, like, I think it's kind of reductive to call it a film school for him.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And like to like insinuate that the only reason somebody would like put these flourishes in the show where like he's showing off camera work, he's playing with blocking, and he's using like static shots in his way to create comedy, that's just not like, he's doing it to create this show. He's not doing it to show how like artistic he is. He thinks it's like what's best for the show, and to like proclaim that that's like for his resume is kind of anti art in a way. Like,
well, yeah, well, that's the thing. I was like, I was gonna say, it was like, it's like, okay, so like if he shows off his directorial chops, so what? Like, and also it's fitting for what the show is, and like
he's also shown himself to be like he's a fan of film as a medium.
Yeah,
so, like he's been very like, he wears that on his sleeve. Like, I've never seen a filmmaker in an interview other than him talk about collecting Blu-rays. As someone as like as big as he is, like he's Like, you know, I don't want to bring out the meme, but like he's just like me for real. You know, like you know, like he loves the art form, and to play with it in the way that he has throughout this entire series. Like, there's nothing else like it on TV in terms of like playing with the medium.
Yeah,
You know, like he's
and
it might be a sandbox for him, but I'm happy that he got to do that.
yeah, and I also don't buy it because the show's still really fucking funny throughout the entire run. Like, this season alone had Fred Armisen, like,
Oh, making the funniest face of all time.
you had NoHo Hank and the Rocket missing, and like
Yeah.
you have the Raven like getting introduced to the house and his posse going ooh like
Yeah.
it's still
Like-
a really funny like show. So I just don't like I understand there's a stylistic departure and like perhaps that rang as phony to some people, but you know I felt it was quite fitting for what the show wanted to be and what it was trying to say.
Yeah, I want to get into the episode in a minute, but to say that he like was bored of it is just kind of like, you don't know what's going through this guy's head. Like, he wanted it to be over because he decided that this was the end, but to just insinuate that he's not, you know, like he just wants to get it over and done with, and then watch what he put on the screen and think, oh yeah, that was just him phoning it in to get it over and done with. I just don't believe that at any point.
Yeah, it's yeah. Look, I think people online really like to speculate what a creator was thinking and doing, and they, you know, they like to read into things, and yeah, I just find a lot of it against Hater to be very disingenuous, and he did a good job.
Leave
I think.
the guy alone.
Yeah.
I think he did a great job.
And
Anyway.
and like so,
Sorry.
one last thing, one last thing, and like if he did, so fucking what? Like, who cares?
Yeah, like, you know, if he phoned it in and this is what he produced, he's a god.
Yeah.
If this is someone phoning it in because they're bored, what can he do? Like, where can you go from there? Like, that's fucking insane. Anyway, into the actual episode. I'm just kind of like astounded that all of this is in 33, 34 minutes or something. Like, I get like people wanted more runtime, but to have this all in a 30-minute space is amazing. Like, it goes very quickly. Like, we start with Fuchs, the Raven, in a bathtub receiving a phone call from Hank, you know, to meet them about, you know, Sally and John being held captive by NoHo Hank, and Barry speeding his way there. And we want to talk about comedy in this series when Barry barges into this Target and just screams guns, and she's this like retail workers like, which ones, and he's just strolling out strapped to the max like a GTA character through like the toy section. Like, it's just like, yeah, he's laying it on thick, but it's also just like, it's, first of all, it's like a funny image, but also it's just like, it's just what it is. Nobody paid attention. Like, it's just the gun laws in America. Like, I don't want to sound too Australian, but like, it's worked here. You know, like, it's been 27 years since strict gun control has been in Australia, and I know we watch like American movies and everything, and they got these guns and they're all shooting each other, and like, it's just like somebody will just pull out a gun in the street. It's like an alien world to me, and it kind of is funny to me that, like, it being such an alien world, just to think about that any moment anybody could be carrying a gun, and just to see it in this farcical way, when that's how it seems to me in the first place, like it's
Yeah.
I thought that aspect was great. Of course, he's laying it on very, very thick, but that image just worked for me very, very well.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Anything you want to add? So I feel like I monologued the last Barry episode.
No, look, we had a lot of audio issues, so like but now we have another audio issue, and it's called my voice.
Jacob, you okay?
I'm recovering from a sickness, so yeah. But no, I think I think the finale, what it did a really good job at was like all these characters were finally shed of their delusions.
Yes, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like Barry, he's the one who holds on to his delusions until the very last moment, but
I don't want to get there when we get there.
yeah, but like the image of, yeah, obviously the now famous image of him walking around the Walmart with the guns, like I agree with everything you've said there. Yeah, it's just I think the build up to the whole NoHo Hank Raven thing was really well done. Like it was a little cliche. You could kind of see where I was going from a while away, but I thought it was good to finally see NoHo Hank again shed that delusion.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a good way to go through the rest of the episode, where we go character by character and talk about how they did that. So I think, yeah, you're right. The first one is NoHo Hank being shed of his delusion that
he didn't kill Cristobal.
Well, he knows he killed Cristobal, but I think he deluded himself into thinking that's what had to happen.
Yeah.
And for Fuchs to draw that out of him, really, like, was the first, like, moment in the episode where it's just like, it's just how this is over for everyone.
Yeah.
And is it in before the gunshot that we really see Fuchs as well, where he's I think we said a couple episodes that, like, he accepted, like, the Raven as this bad guy is, like, who he truly thinks he is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think him discovering Barry having a son and, like, he...
I thought that was I thought that was the most emotional moment of the episode, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of, like, to him, that's like him finding out he had, like, a grandson.
Yeah. And
he just turns on a dime, kind of, when he sees John for the first time. Like, he's very ready to, go there and, like, have Barry, like, fall into the trap or whatever. But when he sees John, it's just kind of, he's just like, no, like, this is, like, he still probably hates about everything that happened to Barry, but to
Fuchs always had a very fatherly complex to him.
Yeah, like he just realized that, like, he'd rather, like, redeem himself in Barry's eyes than to get revenge. Like, he cared more about what Barry thought about him than what Barry did to him. Or I don't want to say Barry really did much to Fuchs. Barry was just like, Barry is not a sympathetic character. But to, like, Fuchs was the first step after his wartime crimes. Like when he arrived back in America, Fuchs was the catalyst to Barry's just like completely awful actions. But I don't even know what I was saying. I was like running myself in a loop. You know, like it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna save this kid for Barry and then hand him to him and just see what happened. I also said a couple episodes ago that like I thought Fuchs was the most surefire death other than Barry in the entire show, and he's like the one person in the crime side of the show
Who survives?
survived.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really funny when he like, what it was to me at least, when he walks off where he like scoots off into the darkness. So I was like, oh wow, I really I was wrong about the thing that I thought was the most surefire bet I could have placed on the entire series. What did you think of NoHo Hank's final moment with the statue of Cristobal?
I think that was the only time I was just like, okay, Bill Hader, we get it. But
yeah, no, I liked it, but I was also just kind of like, oh wow, he's really
yeah, he's not trying to be subtle about any of this.
I think he's just, that's the one thing where I was just like, okay, he's having fun with this. It's like,
yeah,
it was it's like very corny and like lays it on super duper thick again, like as the entire episode does, but I think it works very well overall. And then we have Sally's breakthrough.
Yep.
Where she tells Barry to turn himself in because it's the only thing that will save Kusuno. With Sally, she calls herself a murderer to John.
That was self-defense. Yeah. I understand she feels that way, but yeah.
But I think she's like the only person to feel genuine guilt about killing anyone in the entire series, because like she calls herself a murderer, but that's like probably the only self-defense killing in the entire series.
Yeah.
I can't think of another one. Like it's like she did, kill someone, but she was being attacked, and I don't think she like deserves to call herself a murderer, but like she, is the only one that really seems to feel remorse about any of the terrible things that they've done throughout the series.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she also kind of just like, yeah, she came to a point where she was just like, they just couldn't keep living the same way they had been for the past 8 years. Like, the longer that they run away from this, it's just going to happen again and again.
Yeah, definitely. And then, the next morning, Barry wakes up and Sally and John are gone. And he's even then he's not ready to admit to himself that the right thing to do is to turn himself in. Like, he races over to Kusuno's house to like look for Sally and John, because that's where he thinks he's going to be, because Sally told him that she had gone there earlier. And in that moment, like, oh my god, what was that?
Sorry, I was just drinking water.
That was a very odd sound. He goes there looking for them, and Kusuno's, he's being falsely accused of Janice's murder.
Yep.
And again, this is actually not a fate that I think Kusuno deserves. He's a very selfish and self-important person.
No.
But like, he's
He didn't kill her. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't kill her, and like he's been spouting, very, like he went from, saying he just wants to protect her memory to completely betraying his morals with that, which is what led to him, being framed for this murder, and he, like the entire scene, you think, he's just gonna kill himself with Rip Torn's gun, and for Barry to finally calm down and admit that he had done the wrong thing and he was going to turn himself in, that's when Kusuno can get justice for Janice and kill Barry. But in that moment, when Barry said, I'm going to turn, I think he gets cut off there, and that's when he gets shot the first time by Kusuno. And the namesake of the episode, he looks up at Kusuno and being like, oh wow, and then just shot directly in the head. Earlier in the episode, he's repenting to God. He's saying that if I sacrifice myself to save my family, I will be, forgiven for all my sins, and I will join you in heaven, like that.
Well, I like that he also says like his rightful place.
Yeah, like he's just completely deluded himself and into thinking that like that's what's going to happen, and for him to finally lay everything down and to do the right thing is the moment where he ultimately is stopped from doing that. Like, I think his, like the oh wow moment is brilliant because he doesn't have a chance to redeem himself in any meaningful way. Like, it's just like it's like a shock to him that like, oh, I thought I did everything right and none of it's going to matter at all.
No, but he almost, but at the same time, like, yeah, he doesn't have, even if it was like a longer, slower death.
Yeah,
he would have at least had the whole. Well, at least I told them I was going to turn myself in.
Yeah, but like this is like like a very this is, I don't know how this reading of it plays with other people, but for me, it's like, okay, so Barry's scared of being punished in his afterlife, and the moment, by God, like specifically, I'm talking about God in this reading of it. His most terrifying thing is being punished by God to him, and the moment he decides to make any meaningful moment, God says, any meaningful change, God says, no, you don't get to do that. You're going to be, like, I'm stopping you in the tracks because everything you've done doesn't deserve, like, if the God that he's praying to theoretically exists in this moment of the show, like, he's putting a stop to it.
Yeah.
And I really like I just thought it worked very well in that moment for me. And Kusuno sits down and also like accepts his fate. Like he knows. Does he, like, I presume he heard that Barry was going to turn himself in before he shot him.
It does. Maybe, but I also don't think it doesn't matter because I feel like regardless, he sort of shed that delusion and that need to be seen as the good guy. Like, in a weird way, Kusuno kind of absolved himself of his sins by killing Barry.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, but like Kusuno is also finally, putting himself before. No, he's putting like what his perception of justice is before himself, because he knows his only way to not be in jail for the rest of his life is to let Barry turn himself in, but at that point, none of it mattered to him.
No.
And I like that is, Kusino's only real, chance of redemption of that. He kind of, I don't think he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison, but
it's a tragic
it was his
ending.
choice. Yeah.
But yeah, it was his choice. Given he heard Barry, which I think he would have.
Yeah. And then we jump ahead for the second time this season to probably another 8 years in the future. We got Stephen King's It kid, I always forget his name. Jaden something?
Jaden Martell.
Jaden Martell playing John in the future. And he's watching Sally I assume she's like the high school drama teacher, and they're at the
school theatre. Yeah.
The school theatre, and they're finishing up the play. And what do you think of this fate for Sally?
I think it's fitting. It's deceptively happy in a way, because on the surface, this is a good outcome for her. She has a good job, seems to be like a good relationship with the son who's safe, but there's a real loneliness to her at the same time.
Well, that's the thing, is like she's her narcissism still like shone through everything for me.
Yeah.
With all she really cared about is asking her son, was my play good? Above everything, she just needs to hear from anyone, even the people who would just tell her it's good regardless, that her work is good.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, in the reality of the show, her work is good, and it always has been, but that's the thing that she needs to hear.
She needs to have that affirmated to her.
Yeah. Which I think is a sad ending for her, but it's probably the happiest
it could have been. Yeah,
given what she went through, because she was kind of not involved with much of it until
this season,
towards the end of season 3. Again, domestic abuse notwithstanding, she went through a lot before that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the crime aspect of it, it seemed like a very short moment in her life before, the 8 years on the run with Barry. But yeah, I think it's the happiest it could have been for her.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. And then, what did I do want to hear what you thought of the final sequence of the Barry movie.
Yeah, what was it? The Mask Collector or something?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's honestly quite a brilliant sequence. I think that was a great way to end the show. Yeah, I think it's dark in that it's a quote unquote happy ending for Barry in a way. He's seen as a hero, as untrue as it is. It's still keeping up that delusion. And it gives his son hope and happiness, but it also, that episode, the son also heard from his mother what exactly Barry is. So
Yeah.
he would know that's not true. So he's believing a fantasy like his dad did.
Yeah.
And it's also just so goddamn cruel to Gene Kuzno.
Yeah.
Like
That's what I mean.
like,
He did not deserve.
Yeah, and like this is like almost his worst memory, being seen as the bad guy. Barry.
Yeah, like when he talks about being like, he wants to get the movie made where he's played by Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's talking about how it's not like a good guy or a bad guy story in order for that to happen for him, and he ends up being betrayed as the bad guy because of that.
Yeah.
And it's just tragic in that way for him.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it's a great way to, end it. I love Bill Hader's disdain for Hollywood and the way that they portray stuff like this. I want to watch American Sniper with Bill Hader and just hear his commentary throughout it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about that movie. And Chris Kyle as in general.
Yeah.
I will have to concede my John Mulaney will play Barry in the movie thing to Jim Cummings.
Yep. Everyone's favorite Twitter user.
Yep, who blocked me, and I don't know why, and I'm still not over it. I just never interacted with him. I don't
What the
know
hell,
why he
Jimmy
blocked
C?
me.
That's me.
I know. I was so confused when I saw that. Anyway, I thought he did really good in that kind of role. And yeah, I just think a note to end this show on it's just such a statement. And as I talked about in the beginning of this episode, as I complained about, for Bill Hader to reevaluate his funny hitman wants to become an actor premise, to really wrestle with that and end up in this place, I just think it's an all-time great show for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know how much more I can say about it. This is some great television, great filmmaking, and I can't wait to see where Bill Hader goes from here.
Yeah, Barry was a good show. A very, very good show.
Oh, well, yeah, you really laying it on thick there with the yeah, I liked it.
No.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Yeah, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. It is a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I would say we would talk about what's the next show we're going to be talking about. But TV is over.
Goodbye,
TV is
TV.
finished. We've seen all of TV that it has to offer. So, I don't know if we're going to be coming back with any shows in the future.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, fuck. Okay.